We are continuing our discussion of Chapter 2 of None Dare Call It a Conspiracy, or None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. In the last video, I was talking about how I feel that Gary Allen misrepresents some of Karl Marx's ideas, and also what Allen's definition of communism is. And I do agree that communism in practice has become, as Allen puts it, an international conspiratorial drive for power on the part of men in high places, willing to use any means to bring about their desire to gain global conquest, and they want the global conquest because it is most conducive to their plan to consolidate power, absolute power for themselves. And then these conspirators they live by a historical mantra that the world is for the strong and not the weak. They're very Nietzschean, in fact. In my view, they are. They view most people as absurd imbeciles, uneducated, and not really worthy of having any power or control or being anything other than slaves and servants, because they follow a slave morality, a religious slave morality. They can't think, they can't reason, and I feel we need that kind of population, a population of people who can think, who can reason, who live their lives for other people, who view other people as important, who want to develop relationships with people, who want to have some close friendships, who discuss politics amongst themselves. I mean, I suppose I'm really talking about the polis, right? I'm really talking about an Aristotelian view of society, where people go and they talk about politics together, and you have the polity system, right? You know, if you think about Aristotle's systems of forms of government, Aristotle advocates the polity system, and I agree with Aristotle on that point. I think that's probably what we do need. We need to be able to talk about politics, become politically active, politically informed, really think about the political issues, be well read. But again, that's not America today. Will it ever be America again? I don't know, but it's not America today. Well, anyway, on page 36 of the text, Allen notes that men like Rockefeller, Ford, and Kennedy are for every socialist program known to man that will increase your taxes, yet they pay little, if anything, in taxes themselves. And of course, taxes aren't meant for them. Taxes are meant for all the people who are lower class. Right? The lower class pays taxes, right? When I say lower class, I mean the upper middle class and the middle class pay taxes, so that they can be exploited, so that they become poor class themselves, right? But it's not for the elite. The elite are supposed to remain the elite. Socialism is only socialism for the bottom 95 to 99% of the population. Originally the 95% of the bottom population, eventually to the 99% of the bottom population, once the 95% of the bottom population are so third world ignorant that it becomes advantageous, or it becomes financially viable to start exploiting more and more people. But anyway, the reality of socialism. Let me quote Allen here. The reality of socialism, and I'm going to add also the reality of corporate capitalism, because that's really what the socialism in America is today, is that, quote, you have a tiny oligarchical clique at the top, usually numbering no more than 3% of the total population. Controlling the total wealth, total production, and the very lives of the other 97%. And this is from page 37. And one of the reasons why I found a quote like this so interesting is because I've arrived at the same conclusions as Allen before I ever read Allen. Or at least before I read Allen a second time. When I read Allen in high school, I really didn't understand the book. I really didn't even read the book that closely. It was one of many, many books I had to read for my literature class. And I wasn't really that much into politics. I love, literature. I was maybe into, playing volleyball with my friends, or Foursquare, or some other activities, ping pong, table tennis, right? I didn't really care that much about this kind of an issue. So I got to breeze through the book. We didn't really have to do a lot with the book. We had like a little activity packet to fill out, but that was about it. It was very easy. I basically forgot everything I read in the book. All right. Personally, it was not interesting to me. I didn't take any notes. I didn't underline any passages. The book belonged, of course, to the school, so I couldn't really do that. This is a book that I bought myself, or my father had it, but it's a book that's my own book now, so I can might as well any notes in the margins as I want to. But I have since, by reading other literary texts, by acquainting myself more with other philosophies, figured out that, yeah, I believe that's the case, that there is a tiny clique of people at the very top who control most of the wealth in society. And so when I read this from Gary Allen, it makes sense to me that it would be true. I can't prove it's true, but I suggest it probably is true. It seems true to me. When you have these meetings of internationalist bankers and other corporate elite, the Bilderberg Group, right? I don't think they're talking about their golf scores. Now, whether Bilderberg is just the red herring or not, I don't know. But I'm sure the elites have their way of consolidating wealth for themselves, of getting more for themselves and less for everybody else. And for people that don't believe that, people believe that the elite power structure is a kind power structure. I mean, I've talked with people. I know people who have even owned small businesses who think of most low-class workers as scum, as stupid, uneducated, not hard-working people at all. And I can understand that conception. I mean, I can understand that conception when I think about how many people I've asked to study for the SAT and how few people have ever said yes to me. I've asked quite a few, and I've never had anybody who said yes to me yet. So, yeah, I live in a small town with a lot of low-educated people. They're not going to be interested in studying for the SAT with me. That's unfortunate. I can understand then why they're considered, why they're not liked by potential employees. Who see them as not specifically bright, not specifically educationally dedicated. Some may actually go to work every day and do their job well for a very low pay. We still have some of that among the more hard-working low-class workers. Others are low-class workers who are so alienated they go to work and do a poor job and then go to the weekends to get drunk all the time. That's their life. Talking about Brave New World, I think that's a good example of a Brave New World. And of course, when they come home from their job, they just plop themselves in front of the TV set, right, during the weekdays until the weekends come, and then they get drunk on the weekends. That's their reality. It's not my reality, it's not a reality I accept, but that's a viewpoint that we may have. But anyway, I was going back to this idea. Alan talks about how 3% or less of the population controls the wealth of the society. They're the oligarchical clique, right? It's the oligopoly, right? Aristotelian view of an oligopoly, the rule of a few powerful wealth holders. And he notes, Alan notes, that if you want to control the nation's manufacturing, this is on page 39, the nation's manufacturing, commerce, finance, transportation, and natural resources, you would only need to control the apex, the power pinnacle of an all-powerful socialist government. I think that's true. You want to, if the federal government is very powerful in the United States of America, yeah, by controlling the federal government, you can control most of the system. There's truth to that. Although without controlling the federal government, by having a very weak federal government, you can still engage in immense corporate exploitation like the Lochner era had, right? You exploit child labor, you do all kinds of things because the government isn't involved. So I think corporations have great power if the government was still small in America. So I don't want to say that Gary Allen is this brilliant theorist here, because corporations can, and internationalist bankers and other very powerful people and organizations can figure out how to exploit individuals. They're definitely able to do so. On page 39, Allen also writes that if you wanted to create a national monopoly, you must control a national socialist, we can read that as fascist or corporate capitalist government. If you want to create a worldwide monopoly, you must control a world socialist government, or a world corporate capitalist fascist government. That's his idea of a one world order, although he doesn't say that. He doesn't say anything about a new world order, a nouvel ordre du monde, or anything like that. But that's really the idea. You want a corporate capitalist world, where a few people at the very top control everything in the world, and there's no place to run. You don't even need a Berlin Wall, because where are you going to go? You can't escape, right? And the last thing on page 39, Allen wants to really make it clear that communism is not a movement of the downtrodden masses, but is a movement created, manipulated, and used by power-seeking billionaires in order to gain control over the world. And that's the truth. But I would also add that so is corporate capitalism and globalism. These are both used as well today. Today, corporate capitalism and globalism are the new communisms. But they're all meant and they're all manipulated by the power-seeking billionaires who want to gain control of the world, who want to consolidate wealth for themselves, who want more for themselves, less for everybody else, and that's just the evidence. You see it all the time in the world. You see it in the kind of educational system we have, the incredible expense of the top universities in this country relative to other universities. How most of the lower class children are going to the state schools, or they're going to lower class or lower academic standard liberal arts schools, where the elite are going to the best and the brightest schools, right? The schools where the average student has SAT scores of 700 a section. Well, in the next video I want to talk about chapter 3 of Allen's text, The Money Manipulators. Thank you for watching.